What if Esau got the blessing? Picture the tent at twilight. Oil lamps flicker. A blind old father stretches out a trembling hand. Two brothers circle the hearth like moons caught in the same orbit. One red and wild from the hunt, the other quiet, quick-eyed, always calculating. Somewhere a pot of stew breathes slow bubbles. A single blessing is about to bend a family, and maybe the world. Before we rewrite anything, let's rewalk the familiar path. In the book of Genesis, Esau and Jacob are twins born to Isaac and Rebekah, grandsons of Abraham. Esau comes first, ruddy and strong, a hunter. Jacob follows clinging to his heel, a homebody, a schemer. One day, a hungry Esau trades his birthright, the legal claim to the firstborn's inheritance, for a simple bowl of lentil stew. Later, when their father Isaac grows old and blind, Rebekah helps Jacob disguise himself as Esau. Goat skins on his arms, Esau's clothes for the scent. Jacob carries in a dish, claims to be the firstborn, and Isaac, convinced, pours out a blessing. Prosperity, dominion, the promise that nations will bow. The blessing lands on Jacob. Esau returns moments later, heartbroken, furious. Jacob flees north to Haran to escape his brother's rage. There, he marries, has 12 sons, dreams of a ladder to heaven, and eventually returns home. The 12 sons become the tribes of Israel. The story moves forward through them. Shepherds, judges, kings, and a nation that takes its name from Jacob after he wrestles and is renamed Israel. That's the canonical arc. Now let's tilt the lens. What if Esau got the blessing? What if that crucial twilight scene went the other way? Imagine a small turn of the wheel. Rebekah hesitates. Maybe Jacob can't go through with it. Or maybe Isaac, suspicious, bids both sons come at once. The deception never takes root. In this version, Esau, sweaty from the field, carrying fresh venison, arrives as the favored son and kneels. Isaac's hands settle on Esau's head, and the old patriarch speaks over him, the words meant to steer history. Grain and wine abundant, peoples in deference, brothers in submission. The blessing, like a river diverted by a stone, flows into Esau. The tent exhales, the air shifts. The arrangement of the world feels different. But wait, what about the birthright? In the canon, Esau traded it away. Here's where it gets interesting. The birthright is a legal claim. The blessing is a prophetic seal. If Esau keeps the blessing, the legal sale of the birthright to Jacob becomes a tangled knot. Who truly leads when law and prophecy collide? In this timeline, you might get a fracture at the very core, a house of the birthright led by Jacob, and a house of the blessing crowned by Esau. In the immediate years, Esau stays in Canaan as the recognized heir. He builds up flocks, wells, and alliances. He's charismatic, a hunter who thinks in straight lines. Feed the people, defend the borders, show strength. Jacob, still loved by his mother, still thoughtful and listening for whispers, leaves for Haran to find a wife among his kin. But he doesn't run for his life now. He leaves because without the blessing, his path is the long road of the birthright claimant who must prove his worth with labor and wisdom. Jacob's travels remain luminous. He lies under the dark velvet of the desert sky. The latter dream still comes, angels ascending and descending, a promise humming through the stones. The voice in the night from the God of Abraham and Isaac still calls Jacob by name. In this scenario, the call is maybe even clearer because nothing else guarantees him a throne. No father's blessing, no easy inheritance, only a promise that isn't paper, but breath. In Haran, Jacob serves Laban. He marries Leah and Rachel. Children arrive: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, and the rest, each son a drumbeat building toward a new sound in the world. The 12 will still come. They're a river that finds its way to the sea no matter how you arrange the stones. Back in Canaan, Esau's star burns bright. He forges treaties with neighboring clans, perhaps earlier than before. He's the visible continuation of Abraham's household. The wells his grandfather dug are maintained. Trade routes are guarded. He's not just a hunter now. He's a patriarch with a small kingdom's bones around him. Historically, Genesis notes that Edom, Esau's line, had kings before Israel did. In this timeline, push that forward. Esau's house becomes a recognized crown within a generation, the kingdom of Seir Canaan, the Edomite Isaacite line. Now the great question, does Jacob return, and what happens when he does? He does return. The pull of home is an undertow you cannot see but always feel. He gathers his wives, children, and flocks. He approaches the land as a man who owes everything to the God who found him in the wilderness. And the night before he meets Esau, Jacob still wrestles by the river. That struggle is his essence. At daybreak, the stranger blesses him with a new name, Israel, one who wrestles with God and prevails. It's not a political title, not this time. It's a calling brandished in the dark. He meets Esau, but Esau is not a wounded brother anymore. He's a settled patriarch with a king's bearing. He embraces Jacob warmly, not because his grief has softened, but because he's already full. The hunger that powered his rage in the canonical story was about losing what he thought was his. Here, he keeps it. The reunion is not a surrender or a tense truce. It's a handshake between two houses, the house of the blessing and the house of the promise. What grows out of that handshake is a braided future. Esau's realm stabilizes southern Canaan and the hill country routes to the Red Sea. Jacob's expanding family, increasingly nomadic and numerous, settles in pockets across the central highlands and beyond. They become a network of 12 tribal camps with strong kinship ties but no single political head. Esau's line, with its blessing-backed legitimacy, sees itself as the umbrella. Jacob's line sees itself as the thundercloud, gathering quietly beyond the horizon. Then famine comes. It always comes. Grain withers. Families count jars and measure days. In the canonical path, Joseph, Jacob's son, lands in Egypt through betrayal and providence, rising to power and eventually drawing the whole family down to survive. In our timeline, Joseph's brilliance still shines, but his rise may be swifter. Why? Because Jacob's household, lacking the protection of a crowned patriarch and living near the edge of Esau's political sphere, is exposed. They are quicker to migrate, quicker to sell, quicker to adapt. Joseph's gift for administration becomes a beacon in Egypt just when his scattered clan needs a lighthouse. Egypt opens her granaries. Joseph's plan feeds the world. Esau's kingdom, proud and self-reliant, negotiates grain shipments with Egypt as a peer, not as kin. Jacob's tribes, meanwhile, drift ever more deeply into the Nile's shadow, settling in a land called Goshen. The new pharaohs, looking over their labor registers, notice a people multiplying without a king to negotiate for them. Oppression often creeps in where there is no single voice to push back. Centuries turn. Jacob's descendants groan under the weight of Egypt's system. In this altered world, the Exodus will still come, but it lands differently. When Moses appears, a man of two worlds, raised in the palace and taught by the desert, he doesn't approach a vacuum of petty Canaanite city-states. He approaches a land under Esau's house, organized and proud, with kingship and borders, with a memory of being Abraham's visible heirs. Moses isn't just marching a people out of slavery. He's piloting a rival covenant back toward a throne already occupied. That's the ignition point for a very different conquest era. The 12 tribes re-enter the land led not only by a covenant, but by a profound identity forged in suffering. Esau's realm, seeing an influx of cousins claiming ancient promises, braces. Treaties are offered, borders are tested. Instead of a blitz of isolated victories like Jericho, we get a protracted negotiation turned conflict between kin. It's not annihilation, it's a high-stakes arbitration of memory. Whose blessing is the true anchor of Abraham's story? Whose promise defines the land? In this world, imagine a long, uneven fusion. Some of Esau's cities, especially in the north, align with the newcomers through trade and marriage. Others hold fast under the Edomite crown. The resulting map shows a quilt of allegiances, not a single Israelite state overnight. And here's the twist. The judges of Israel rise as moral voices more than military chiefs at first. Deborah's wisdom chair feels like a regional court shared by kin groups rather than a war council. Gideon becomes a reformer who convinces allied towns to stop leaning on Esau's fortresses and trust the God who raised them from nothing. Power moves slowly from Esau's consolidated house to a confederation of tribes who keep quoting a wilderness-given law. Pause with that image. Two intertwined peoples, tracing back to twins in a tent, debating whose memory is truer while sharing wells and markets. It's messy. It's human. It rings true. Quick pause for you. Would this world end with Jacob's tribes overtaking Esau's crown? Or would Esau's house remain the visible head while Israel becomes the beating heart? Drop your take in the comments. And if you're enjoying these respectful what-ifs, tap like and subscribe so we can keep building them together. Now, if kings come, and they will, we get an inversion. In our canon, Saul and then David unify the tribes after generations of chaos. Here, Esau's line already wears the crown. The first king of an Israel-like confederation might be less a founder and more a reformer king who holds a mirror to Esau's throne. Instead of David slaying a Philistine giant to launch a national story, picture a David figure, maybe still from Judah, who pens psalms in a contested capital and reforms worship to focus hearts away from politics and back toward the holy. Not a conquering general at first, but a poet king who slowly tilts the axis of legitimacy from the blessing of a patriarch to the presence of a living God. Temple or no temple? That turns into the fulcrum. Esau's house might invest in a temple of their own, claiming Abrahamic continuity. Golden pillars, incense, sacrifice, a crown watching from a balcony. Jacob's house, having walked through slavery and sea, might resist a palace-temple merger. When a temple finally rises among the tribes, it comes with a constitution, the law carried from Sinai, insisting that kings kneel to something higher. The priesthood becomes a firewall against a purely dynastic religion. The tension sharpens theology. What does it mean to be chosen, wearing a blessing or bearing a burden? Is chosenness a charter or a calling, a title or a task? And prophecy, oh prophecy, burns hotter in this world. When a people are not the obvious heirs, their poets and prophets become the clear trumpets of identity. In this timeline, expect seers like Nathan, Elijah, and Isaiah to speak more directly against the fusion of crown and altar in Esau's court, or even within Israel's own reforming movement. Their words might be edged with kinship sorrow, not shouts across a battlefield, but letters across a family table. Instead of easy enemies, their audience is a brother with whom they disagree about who carries the promise best. Culturally, the art of these twin peoples diverges. Esau's architecture celebrates stability and lineage, monumental, geometric, steady. Israel's aesthetics carry desert memory, tent motifs, portable sanctuaries, songs that travel light and settle deep. Their festivals reflect this split. Esau's feast days celebrate harvest and kingship anniversaries. Israel's calendar rings with rescue, Passover, booths, trumpets, a liturgy of escape and return. The storytelling becomes a tug-of-war between permanence and pilgrimage. Internationally, the map redraws itself by kinship calculus. Neighboring powers, Egypt, Aram, later Assyria, learn to play the siblings against each other. Treaties come with footnotes, grain for gold, border garrisons, mutual defense pacts. Esau's kingdom, politically mature, signs early. Israel, scrappier, sometimes refuses and pays for it with raids and pressure. Over centuries, this pushes Israel inward, toward law, toward prophets, toward the insistence that covenant fidelity, not clever diplomacy, is their lifeline. Ironically, Esau's blessing-driven stability makes them a prime target for empire absorption. Israel's lean, faith-shaped identity, harder to conquer because it's written in hearts, not just walls, survives exile more resiliently. Do the words spoken over the twins in Rebekah's womb, "The older will serve the younger," vanish in this world? Not necessarily. Maybe they ripen slowly. In the short term, Esau leads. In the long term, Jacob's people, with their portable covenant and reforming kings, become the moral and spiritual center of the region. Esau's crown might find itself bowing, not to Jacob's kings, but to Jacob's God. Service doesn't always look like chains. Sometimes it looks like culture tilting toward a song. And personally, bring it back to the brothers. In this alternate world, Esau lives most of his days relieved. He got what he expected. His smile is fuller, his laughter easier. Jacob walks a narrower road. He becomes Israel with scarred hips and stubborn prayers because he must. His sons learn patience early. Their family learns that everything they are rests not on a father's words, but on a wilderness voice that shows up beside rivers at night. Centuries later, when historians and storytellers look back, they might describe two legacies fused in tension: a crown people and a covenant people, born from the same tent at twilight. Some maps label them as one. Some draw a dotted line between. Pilgrims still climb hills to festivals. Kings still hold councils under painted cedar. But the heart of the story, the heart that helps a world far beyond the ancient Near East, beats with this question: is identity secured by the blessing placed on your head, or by the calling that keeps waking you up in the dark? Let's land gently. Our What If is an educational lens, not doctrine, a respectful way to see how small choices ripple into centuries. Esau with the blessing would likely grant the ancient world more stability early and more complexity later. Jacob without it would become Israel by sheer wrestle and grace. And perhaps that's the quiet teaching under the tent's lamplight. Sometimes the visible crown isn't the final word. Sometimes the truest inheritance is the one you learn to carry, not the one you were given. In the end, whether Esau keeps the blessing or Jacob steals it, the family table remains long and wide. The story keeps whispering across time. Brothers can wound, brothers can reconcile, and destiny is always more than the moment a father lays hands on a son. Somewhere, a pot of stew still bubbles. Somewhere, a promise is still speaking.